Okay, hello and welcome to the video. My name is Wade Smith, and in this video, I'm going to briefly critique the Ip Man movies fight scenes. In particular, the handicap match where he supposedly fights 10 people, which this is supposed to be a docudrama of his real life, and I seriously doubt there's ever been a real human being beat 10 supposed black belts. But in a handicap match, I mean, I used to be able to beat two second degree black belts in a handicap match. That was 26 years ago when I was 20 years old and healthy and not sick yet. But I can say that watching those movies, I watched the first one, I think the third one, and the fourth one. And I didn't like any of them, but I watched them just to see how bad the choreography was. Because whoever the fight choreographer was for the first, I watched all four of them actually. Whoever the fight choreographer was for the first and second one, they've obviously never won a real fight before in their life, and they've definitely never won a real one versus two handicap fight before in their life. Um, because they have these all these excessive flourishes and everything else that he's doing during the fights and things like that that don't work in real fights. We know what real fights look like from MMA, except minus the joint locks because they tape their wrists and use gloves. And most of the fighters in MMA do not know Japanese Jiu-Jitsu joint locks, so you can't rule out joint locks from MMA because the reason that they don't use them in MMA is because of the glove, no grabbing the glove rule, and the taped wrists make them a little bit less effective than a real, fight. But anyway, be that as it may, they had no joint locks in the Ip Man movie. And if you're going to win a 1-on-2, much less a 1-on-10 handicap match against supposed black belt level fighters, which you're not, but if you were going to try, you better know some of everything, including joint locks. Um, and then in the movie, he when he challenged the 10 black belts, he was surrounded by them except one step to the rear. And if you were actually going to fight 10 people 1-on-10, you're not going to let yourself get surrounded because if you did, you'd lose. Um, and some of the choreography is pretty stupid. Like he's beating the tar out of one guy on the ground, and nobody else is even attacking him. And it's supposed to be a 10-on-1. That's not how a 10-on-1 would work. They would all be punching you from every angle simultaneously. So you're not going to beat them unless this is Samson in the Bible and God Himself does it for you, which is not going to happen either. Um, but and then like you know, uh, the scene where the guy draws the sword on him and he beats him with a broomstick is also probably highly unlikely because a regular broomstick out of your house is not going to be the best wood for an Okinawan bow. And unless you have a metal tip on an Okinawan bow, you're also probably not going to beat a sword with a stick. You can beat a sword with a metal pike, yes, because you have a reach advantage, but with a stick or a broomstick, probably not because the sword is just going to cut the stick clean in half, and you're not going to have a reach advantage anymore, and then you're going to lose. I mean, we know from forged in fire and other modern forging technologies, which are basically the same as they were 1,000 years ago, um, that a properly forged sword will cut right through a stick or even a true Okinawan bow in one swing. So a wooden stick is not going to beat a sword in a sword fight. Now a metal pike will beat because of the range advantage. Can and will and does beat swords. So that fight scene is pretty bad. Um, and then like you know, even the scene where the villain in the first Ip Man movie, where the general, I guess it was a general, the Japanese general, beat three of the Chinese kung fu students in a 1-on-3 handicap his own self. Um, that choreography was pretty bad. That's not how a 1-on-3 would go, or even a 1-on-2. When they're both coming at you simultaneously, you don't have but a split second to make up your mind which one you're going to attack first and use his body to shield you from the other ones. It's not like, well, one person attacks you, then another person attacks you, then another person attacks you. No, that's Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee nonsense. It's everybody's coming at you at once. You have to close the distance and attack one of them first and use him as a shield against the other ones. That's the only way to do it. I know because I used to practice it against real second degree black belts in the dojo when I was 20 years old. We did multi attack drills and full contact multi attack drills, including multi attack drills with weapons. Uh, but it doesn't look like the Ip Man movies. The Ip Man movies were a huge disappointment. I would like to see somebody choreograph martial arts for once, the way it's supposed to be in these movies. But I've been to, like I say, my credentials are 4,400 gym hours of Okinawan karate and Japanese jiu jitsu, and about 200 additional gym hours of Brazilian jiu jitsu under the Gracie family. Um, and I've also been to a couple hundred seminar hours of kung fu and tai chi. Tai chi is useful for the joint locks, but I don't really find it particularly useful for anything else. And kung fu has virtually no real world practical application. It's just hand flourishing. It's not real skills. I don't know where they get that kung fu was such a big deal. It's like bad karate is what kung fu is bad karate. Everything you could do wrong with your karate is what you end up with if you do kung fu. Um and you know that's just like in the Bruce Lee versus Chuck Norris fight. Yeah, is that Enter the Dragon or is that Way of the Dragon? Let me check and make sure. Uh, anyway, it's the Bruce Lee versus Chuck Norris fight. I think it's Enter the Bruce is losing the fight at first, and then he changes his fighting style to dancing around like a boxer. That does not work either. All right, not in a real street fight. But he tried to illustrate that learning multiple styles could help benefit you in fighting an opponent who might be beating you at one style. But conceptually, that was a neat thing. But realistically, bouncing around does not help you win a fight. Matter of fact, every time you bounce in the air, your feet are off the ground, and then you can't change directions when your opponent is throwing a punch or kick at you. So then you lose. Because if you watch Chuck Norris's real full contact fights, he does not bounce around. Um, he mostly stands in one place and waits for the other person to make a mistake. Okay, that video is Chuck Norris getting submitted by Rickson Gracie. I'm looking for the other one where he was actually fighting full contact when he was much younger. Yeah. Yeah, see there in these full contact videos, clinching was allowed when he was fighting in full contact karate and spinning backwards for a while, and, he won this fight with spinning backwards. But, okay, so anyway, I'm looking at it, but you can't see what I'm looking at, and I don't know how to edit that. Um, but in the fight, he threw a clenched knee, which was almost like a Muay Thai fight. Um, but you don't see Chuck Norris bouncing around like a rabbit, especially like these contact fighters do that are not the champions. If you watch the champions in point contact, um, they do not bounce around. They stand in one place and wait for the other person to make a move and make a mistake. That's how real fight skills work. It's not, like Bruce Lee in Way of the Dragon bouncing around like a numbskull to supposedly beat Chuck Norris's character. That does not work. Like I said, it just flat out doesn't. Because you're in the air at least half the time from bouncing, and you can't change direction while you're in the air. All right. So I've critiqued both Ip Man and Bruce Lee in one video. Sweet. Oh, the Bruce Lee 1 inch punch is literally a charlatan's parlor trick. I can do that. All you have to do is have somebody stand in front of a chair and you do a 1 inch punch to the solar plexus. And when you push them in the solar plexus, they're going to naturally fold forward as they move backward. Their body's going to fold down forward, but their legs and hips are going to action backwards. And they trip over the chair and fall into the chair. There's nothing special about that. It doesn't require exceptional amounts of power. It's just body mechanics.